Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Let us continue with the chapter Diversity in Living Organisms. Well, this is the 10th theory session of this chapter, and in the earlier sessions I have already explained the basic concept of diversity and the classification. So according to Sir R.H. Whittaker, the diverse living forms on our planet, they are classified into 5 different kingdoms, right? And this kingdom, it is on the basis of their basic characteristic features. Fine. So what are those 5 kingdoms? They are number 1, Monera, Protista, Fungi, then Plantae and Animalia. And all these 5 kingdoms, they are including the different organisms which are having more or less similar basic features. But definitely the basic feature is similar. And which basic characteristic features? Like it is on the basis of the type of cell, that whether the organism is made up of prokaryotic cell or eukaryotic cell. Fine. Then depending upon the number of cells, there are different classification systems, or the organisms are classified into different groups, right? Further, the next criteria is the body organization, presence or absence of the cell wall, and the mode of nutrition. Fine. So we have already discussed all these basic points. Now is the time to understand the sub-classification of kingdom Plantae. As per syllabus, we are following, or we are going to study about the kingdom Plantae and the kingdom Animalia. So in today's session, I am going to discuss something about the kingdom Plantae. From the earlier sessions, you know this thing very well, that plants or the plant kingdom Plantae is a group of organisms which are made up of eukaryotic cells. Right? That means they are made up of well-developed cells in which a well-defined nucleus is present, as well as the other membrane-bound organelles are also present. Besides this, the organisms of this particular group are multicellular and autotrophic. So what we mean by this autotrophic? Autotrophic, it means the organisms that can synthesize their own food. Fine. Another important feature of this group is that these organisms are non-motile. They cannot move from one place to the another. And because of this particular fact, they need the mechanical stability. Right? And for this, the organisms, they are having living tissues as well as they are having the dead tissues. Now, these are the basic points or basic characteristics of all of the plants. Fine. But further, when we move forward, or when we look into more depth, you will see that there are many different characteristic features which exist within the kingdom Plantae, or within the organisms of this kingdom Plantae, right? So these organisms, further on the basis of their dissimilarities, right, or other features, they are subclassified. And then for the each subgroup which is classified here, that is known as the division. If you remember, I have already discussed this point, that the kingdom is further divided into the next smaller group, which is known as the phylum in case of animals and division in case of Plantae. So now, before I discuss the different divisions of this kingdom Plantae, there is a need to understand the criteria for the classification of these organisms. Fine. So the basic criteria for such classification is the differentiation of body parts. See, these organisms, that is plants, they are made up of multicellular, many number of cells. They are made up of many cells. Now, in this particular organism, what type of differentiation is observed? That means how these cells are organized. Right. On that basis, the initial classification is done. So here I can say that the organized cells, right, a group of cells, whether it has been differentiated into tissues or the organs or not. This makes the first criteria so as to classify the plants. And I know you must be knowing that what are the different organs in the plants. They are like stem, roots, leaves, flowers, etc. So whether in the plant all these parts are well developed, they are well differentiated or not. This is the first criteria. If they are undifferentiated, it is simply living as a colony or as a group of cells in a over there in an area or in a habitat. Then of course that is forming one group. And when this differentiation begins, right, then the subclassification will start. So initially, definitely it is not a process which can take place in a single day. There are the plants in which a little development is there, and there are the plants where the complex development is there. So depending upon that, the major subgroups are formed. Next is that initially I said that if it is differentiated, let us say it is differentiated into different body parts like stem or leaf or anything. Fine. Now the next criteria is that whether in this developed stem or the root the vascular system is present or not. So this is the next criteria. What is this vascular system? Vascular system is related to the transport system in plants. I can say that how the conduction of material is taking place. Whether there is some system so as to transport the different materials like water, minerals, food, phytohormones, etc. Whether there is a system for the transportation of these material or not, the further classification has to be done. That means initially there is a group of plants in which the differentiation is not observed. The next group is there now in which the differentiated body parts are present. That means they are having some this basic structures like stem or leaf or all that. Then there is the third group or the next group in which along with these differentiated body parts the internal vascular system is also developed. So that becomes the next criteria so as to generate the new group. Fine. Further, if this vascular system is developed, the next property to be followed here or to study here in the plants is their ability to bear the seeds. Whether these vascularized plants, they are having the capacity to bear the seeds, to produce the seeds or not. So if these seeds are not produced, there is a system where the seed production is not there in the plants. So that is forming the initial one group. And then further, if this characteristic is developed, you know very well how the seeds are produced, right? It is by the fusion of male and female gametes. Right. So, of course, this fusion is taking place, which results in the formation of zygote, and then zygote is surrounded by the tough coat, and such structure is known as the seed. So now the point is, there are the plants which are able to bear the seeds, but the another criteria to classify the organisms furthermore is that whether these seeds are present as a naked structure or these are enclosed inside the seeds. This is the next criteria now. That means enclosed means what? That is whether they are enclosed, they are present inside the fruit or they are present just like that. That is in the naked condition. So that is forming the next criteria. So this is the basic criteria so as to classify the organisms, that is the plants. Fine. From this criteria or from this discussion, what basic points you can extract? Well, I can summarize these things here, and even you can think about it. Fine. So here, initially the undifferentiated group is there. Fine. And then I can say in this group there are some See, initially there is some undifferentiated versus differentiated plants. Fine. This is the first group. Second point is what? There are the vascular plants and there are the non-vascular plants. Right? That means the first part, that is this differentiated parts, whether they are vascularized or not. Fine. If they are not, they will be considered as as this group, that is differentiated one. And further, when the vascular system is developed, the next group would be generated. Then third point is that whether these are the seedless plants or they are seed bearing plants. So in this way, the three types of questions can come in your exams. This is why I am explaining these 3 points. So I am highlighting these 3 points here. First is undifferentiated versus differentiated plants, then vascular versus non-vascular, seedless versus seed-bearing plants. Fine. Now, further, out of these 3 points or this criteria, now the thing is that what are the divisions? What is the exact base so as to classify the plants? Right? So further I'm going to discuss about the important divisions that are that will come under the Plantae kingdom. So students, here is the chart which is showing the divisions of kingdom Plantae. In this chart, by mistake I have written this word, that is phylum. So it is of course wrong. What we should write for plants? It should be division. So overall, depending upon the criteria that I have discussed with you, these plants are classified into 5 divisions. What are these 5 divisions? Number 1, it is Thallophyta, then it is Bryophyta, then comes the Pteridophyta, then Gymnosperms and Angiosperms. So all these 5 divisions are present here, and the criteria that we discussed is of course the one that I have just discussed with you. Fine. So Thallophyta, it is a group of plants which includes the undifferentiated plants or the plants which are having the undifferentiated body. It means the cells are not organized in some well-developed tissues or in the form of well-developed organs. Fine. The next is the Bryophyta. So this Bryophyta is the next group which is having the differentiated body parts. And these differentiated body parts, they are having stems, they are having the leaves, but the roots are not very well developed. The root is they are fibrous or it is hair-like structures. Fine. But this differentiated body is not having the specialized vascular system. That means which system is participating in the conduction of material? These tissues are xylem and the phloem. So these xylem and phloem are not developed in the group Bryophyta. Next is Pteridophyta, in which this property has been now developed. That means they are having well differentiated plant body along with the developed vascular system. Vascular system, that means of course xylem and phloem is well developed now. But these organisms, they are not able to produce seeds. So up to this group, can we say this thing that Thallophyta, Bryophyta as well as the Pteridophyta, all these 3 groups, they are seedless plants. And you know in what this property is known as? The organisms which are not able to secrete or produce the seeds, they are known as cryptogams. So these particular plants which are seedless, which are not able to produce the seeds, they are known as cryptogams. So these 3 groups, these 3 divisions, Thallophyta, Bryophyta and Pteridophyta, they are coming in a single subkingdom that is known as the cryptogams. On the other hand, the further group I said is the Gymnosperms, which are having the seeds, but these seeds are not enclosed inside the fruit or any other structure. So such type of group is known as the Gymnosperms. And the another is there, which is having of course a well differentiated plant body with developed vascular tissue, and in them the seeds are enclosed inside the fruits. So this is the next phylum, the next division in the plant kingdom. And of course these two groups, that is the Gymnosperms and the Angiosperms, these two are forming the single group which is known as the phanerogam, right? And this property in which they are by which they are able to produce the seeds is known as phanerogamy. So now you can see that there are seedless plants and the seed producing plants. So this is how the plants are subdivided into two subkingdoms, and then further the divisions are there. So after this, in the case of angiosperms, seeds, they may have two cotyledons or they may have a single cotyledon. So further, on the basis of the number of cotyledons, these are further subclassified. And what are those subclasses? Dicots and the monocots. Now further, we will discuss about each and every division in details, and definitely with some examples and comparisons wherever required, so that the system or the this concept becomes very clear to you, that which type of plant will come in which division. Well, now, before proceeding to the to each division, let me explain in brief about the subkingdoms. So, broadly, the plants are subdivided into which subkingdom? Cryptogams and the phanerogams. So, just let us just brief out the specific properties of these two groups, and then we will switch over to the to this particular division. The first subkingdom is the cryptogamy or the cryptogams. The word cryptogam, it is comprised of two words. One is crypto, the other is gammus. Fine. Crypto, it is related to, it means hidden, and gammus, it is related to the gametes or the reproductive parts of the plant. Fine. So in this case, in such types of plants, these reproductive parts or the gametes, they are not exposed. They are present in the hidden conditions. And of course, these hidden parts, they are not producing the external flowers or the seeds. But definitely, since the reproduction is taking place, so there must be some other reproductive structures then, right? If they are not the flowers or the seeds, because in these plants, the organisms, they are reproducing sexually through the flowers and the seeds only. So now, if these structures are not present, then how these organisms are actually reproducing? In this case, the reproductive parts are hidden or they are inconspicuous, and thus these are reproducing through the special structures which are known as the spores. Now this is clear that initially the plants are divided or they are classified on the basis of their hidden reproductive parts or the exposed reproductive parts, right? In this cryptogams, the further subclassification is done, and that subclassification is now in terms of its body differentiation and the vascular system. So I can show you one flowchart so as to just remind the divisions which will come under this category. So these cryptogams, they are known as the flowerless or the seedless plants. In your exams, the question may come by this name, and that's why I'm highlighting this point, that explain the features of seedless plants. So in that case, you have to explain the cryptogams. Fine. Anyways, now these seedless plants or flowerless plants, they are, as I said, they are classified on the basis of their vascular system. So here, on the basis of these vascular system, they can be either non-vascular or these can be vascular. That means in them the xylem and phloem, it may be present, it may be developed, or it may not be developed. The vascular is the one where the xylem and phloem is developed, whereas non-vascular is the one in which the xylem and phloem are not present. So this non-vascular is further differentiated on the basis of its differentiation property as thallophytes and the bryophytes. So now you can make out that these thallophytes, the first division is the group which includes the simplest plants in it, right? Then comes the bryophytes, and then vascular cryptogams are known as pteridophytes. This is the another name by which the question comes in your exams, that is the vascular cryptogams. So further, this is about the cryptogams. Next is the phanerogams. Well, these phanerogams, in this again it is comprised of two terms, that is phanero and gammus. Phanero means visible, gammus which is related to gametes or the reproductive parts. So these are those well developed plants in which the reproductive parts are well developed and they are actually able to bear the external flowers, and since external flowers are present, so they are able to produce the seeds, and these seed producing flower bearing plants are known as the phanerogams. These organisms, as they are having these flowers and all these developed seeds over there, so they are able to reproduce in the sexual manner. What I mean by this is that the seeds are produced as a result of fusion of a male and a female gamete, right? There are the male pollen grains and there are the female ovum. Both these structures, they fuse together so as to form the zygote. Zygote develops into the embryo, and this embryo is enclosed inside the particular structure, this hard coat structure, that is the seeds, right? And seeds, now these seeds, they may be present as naked structures, or they may be enclosed inside the fruits. So further, therefore they are subclassified. Subclassified into which part? Into the division Gymnosperms and the Angiosperms. Now beside these properties, that is they are having this developed reproductive parts, they are also having the well differentiated body which is comprised of well developed roots, stems and the leaves. Also they are having the developed vascular system. Definitely this xylem and phloem is more developed in the angiosperms, and thus these are the categories which is the topmost category, or they are having the most developed plants in them. Fine. And definitely the reproduction, it is taking place because of the fertilization of the female gamete. And this female gamete, the fertilized gamete, fertilized egg is able to produce the embryo. So this is how these plants are subclassified into subkingdoms. Now we are having 5 divisions, and one by one we will study the specific features of each division now. Well, I am going to discuss this in the next session actually. So we'll continue over there. So till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.